Well, welcome everybody, and welcome to our coach interview series. This is Grant, and if you're watching this with us live, then make sure you let us know where you're tuning in from. It is 4 p.m. on a Tuesday here in Sydney, and today we have the privilege of hearing from an amazing emotional intelligence practitioner and executive leadership coach from Australia, Ros Cardinal. So I want to get in and start asking her some questions and hear from her. So as you are going through this, as you're listening to this, even if you're watching this in the recording, please interact, throw in some questions, and we will come in and make sure that we answer them. So without any further ado, welcome, Ros.
Thank you. Real pleasure to be here.
Fantastic. Love that. And I love it when the tech works too, which is really, really good.
Always a bonus, isn't it?
It is a total bonus. As I always tell people, I'm an emotional intelligence expert, but I'm a work in progress in its implementation, particularly when tech is involved. So it's going really well. All right. So, Ros, I just want to have a little conversation with you and allow you the opportunity to help me to serve the members in the group and let people have a little bit of an understanding around what you do as an emotional intelligence practitioner. You have a very long history of working with people, and that's what I really want to start with. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey as a coach, as a practitioner?
As a practitioner, I started my working life back in about 1988, I think it was. So I'm showing my age, and I know there will be people on the call who are probably born after that. And I started off in human resources. It was called personnel back in those days, and kind of in the learning and development space, although in those days it was pretty underdeveloped, I guess. And through that sort of time from then until now, have worked a lot in the sort of organisational development, people spaces. And as an HR generalist for the first part of my career, but then realised as I got further into it how much I really enjoyed helping people grow and develop and become, the best versions of themselves. And so that's what kind of led me down the L&D path as opposed to some of the other specialisations you can do in HR. I left my corporate role in 2012, so it was 10 years ago this month, actually, last month, to start my own business. And that was when I really started to get particularly more interested in EI. So I did my EI certification with Dr. Susan David in 2012. That's the very first thing I did when I started my business, was shoot off to Melbourne. I was lucky enough that she came to Australia that year and do her certification course. So in terms of EI, it's been something I've always been interested in, but developed that in the last 10 years.
Fantastic. Love that. Okay, so it's really great to hear right now that big organisations that people listen to, papers and experts and universities, etc., are coming out saying that emotional intelligence are the skills that we need, right? Now, we've known this for years. So
Yes.
can you help us to understand why you believe that emotional intelligence is so important right now?
I coach and work with leaders and executives mainly, and we've all come across them. You get a leader who's been incredibly successful because of their strategic brain, their cognitive abilities and things like that. And they get to a level, and it might be general manager level or into the C-suite, even CEO level. And then they suddenly realise that they're missing something. And you get people who'll be brilliant strategists, but just cannot connect with people at all. And it only gets you so far. It's that sort of sense that you can be really great at what you do, but there comes a time when you need people to follow you. And you can't you can't engage people to follow you and come with you on a journey if you can't engage their hearts as well as their minds. And I think that's the big shift that we're seeing, is moving away from, probably up until the 1990s, where technical skill was what was valued over all else, particularly in senior level roles. And now there's this real recognition that you need to be, a people person to get things right. And so I coach a lot of very senior leaders who might have, particularly in the technical expertise range, where there may be engineers or IT specialists or scientists who've gone through their careers, solely built on their technical experience. And it's almost like they have this realization that it's just whatever they're doing now just isn't working for them. And sometimes they feel quite let down by the system. It's like, how did I get here before somebody told me that this was a problem? But it's really starting to be recognised mainstream, like you said, which I think is a really valuable thing, that we need those people skills, those soft skills to be successful.
Fantastic. Yeah, I love that. And my experience is exactly the same. From my own corporate career, I can tell you
Yeah.
that I didn't even know there was such a thing as emotional intelligence. And when I found out what it was, I realized I didn't have any. And if the people that I was working with had have known there was such a thing as emotional intelligence, they would have known back then that I didn't have any either. And that's one of the things I love about the opportunity to work in this field, is that they are learned competencies. They're not things that you're born with or you're not born with. And, these old adages of leaders are born, they're not made, and all these silly things that people have said over the years that we believed. But yeah, it's definitely the difference. And a particular point that you said there, I find to be so true so often, and that is they got to, and I'm paraphrasing what you said, they got to a point where they'd had enough of not getting the results they wanted. And I remember in my own career, there was probably 19 times that people would tell me stuff all through my career. And I finally, on the 20th time, went, you know what? There could be a little bit of truth in this stuff. All right. Now, I know you used a term then, which is one of my pet hates, but that's okay. We have to use it to be relevant. And it's that term, soft skills, right? That's what they call them. So we've got to be relevant. And that's one of the first things I think people realize when they find out about these skills, what they actually are. And that is that they're not the soft ones. These are the ones that if you don't have them, it'll eat your lunch. It'll derail your career. So thank you for being a part of the team that's helping those people change for the better. So in your opinion, what can we actually, I better preface this. So there's people in this group, some of them are emotional intelligence practitioners, others have dabbled with it and know what it is. And then there's others who are considering becoming a coach and becoming an emotional intelligence practitioner. So there's all varying ranges of understanding. So in your opinion, what are some of the things that we can help people with emotional intelligence training and coaching?
For me, it's where the rubber hits the road. It's all very well to have a high emotional intelligence and to understand it, you've got to do something with that. So for me, some of the most valuable things that I probably give to coaching clients is the fact that you don't have to be driven by your emotions. Your emotions are an input. You don't have to do anything with it. It's a data point, just like any other data point, and can be part of your decision making, but it doesn't have to drive your decision making. So it moves the conversation around from I couldn't help it, I got angry, I couldn't help getting angry, to how you responded to it was a choice. The emotion is fine, there's nothing wrong with being angry. It's about how you express it or don't express it that's important. So it's helping people disconnect from because I feel an emotion, I have to do something. You can feel an emotion, you can sit with it, and emotions pass. If you give them a few minutes, they'll pass by. It's really just sort of being really strategic. Like I'm feeling, just say for example, use tech as an example. Technology has just gone wrong and I'm feeling really frustrated. You've got some choices at that point. You can throw your computer out the window. And of course, there are consequences to that you have to wear afterwards. Or you can choose to go, you know what, I feel frustrated by this computer because it's interfering with my work and it's making me feel incompetent or inefficient. And then you absorb that and you move on with your day. So I think that's a really important thing, is helping people understand that emotion doesn't have to equal action.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And the more that we learn and the changes in neuroscience over the years, and by the way, if you're a practitioner and watching this, I really implore you, I hope that's the right word, I think it is, to keep up to date, because Ros and I were having a chat before we started, and there's so many things that I learnt years ago, which have been debunked. And I love where you say there that around, you don't have to do anything with it. And one of the things that I've learnt over the last few years, and I love the work of Lisa Feldman Barrett, and she talks about the theory of constructed emotions. So we understand that we don't have a lizard brain that's got 5 hardwired emotions in it, and everyone that looks with this look on their face is fearful or whatever. We construct our emotions. And I love that with what you said, because shows you straight away that you're in control. Because I think the word control is sometimes misused in the work that we do, even by us. And and the word manage, I used to say manage your emotions like everyone else did, until I realized that that's the worst thing to do. We're not managing the emotion at all. We're doing exactly what you said, and that is we are managing our response to the emotion. And there's still people out there teaching manage your emotions, which to me says, suppress it, ignore it. What do I do? Do I stop it? No. And as a word that I like to use, which has really served me and my clients love it as well, and that's navigate the emotion. All right, which means it's going to happen. And another thing, and I'll get your thoughts on this. Another thing, and I've gone off track with my own questions. Another thing is around positive and negative emotions. My understanding around that is there's no such thing as a positive or a negative emotion. All right, there's a positive or negative behavior that could come out of your navigation of an emotion. But yeah, there's still people out there going, there's positive emotions, negative emotions. And I think that's where it can really, really, mess people up in their understanding of what we do. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. There's no such thing as a positive or negative emotion. Fear or anger could save your life.
Yeah.
That's what they're designed to do. Emotions are actually designed to keep us alive at the end of the day. That's what they're about. Positive emotions, what we call positive emotions, like, connectedness, for example, is about survival, because being connected with our tribe is important. Fear is about survival, because things can kill us in the big wide world. So you're absolutely right that they're neither positive nor negative. They just are. They're just telling you something useful. And I love that, navigate your emotion, because it's not about managing it. It's not about flatlining at all. A lot of people think that emotional management, as you term it, would be flatlining your emotion and not feeling anything. And it's absolutely not true. It's experiencing the emotion in all of its fullness. And like I said, strategizing, going, this is really interesting. What am I going to do with this?
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the whole process of constructed emotion. The brain is a prediction machine. So based on past experiences, emotionally charged experiences, memories in the hippocampus, all those sort of things. If we see us, like if I'm out on my walk of a morning in the Botanic Gardens, and I see a black stick across the road because it's not quite daylight yet, and I perceive that that's a snake, a red belly black snake, and if you're not from Australia, you don't want that to bite you, right? So then my perception that I make up of that, it's going to change my behavior. So I think that's really important. Love that. So I've got a favorite, and I can tell you about that in a moment, but what is your favorite competency of emotional intelligence that you work with your clients, and why?
Oh, because they're all great. The one I particularly enjoy teaching clients is recognizing emotions in other people. So facial recognition, for example, and micro expressions, and teaching people what expressions actually mean. And I was reading a really fascinating piece of research just recently, which was actually talking about when we look at somebody and we see an emotion on their face, we actually mimic it. We have a micro expression of our own that mimics their expression. And here was the really interesting bit, is they've made the link to people who've had Botox are less able to recognize other people's emotions because they haven't got that ability to micro mimic it, I suppose you'd call it. So the process of recognizing emotion, being able to look at people and go, what's really going on here? And then, of course, that the ability to then, gently probe without making the person feel uncomfortable can be. And look, I'll give you an example. I had a client a little while ago who I went to see for a routine coaching session, and she told me that, she said, look, this is going to be my last session because I'm moving jobs. I've got a job as a CFO in a really big company, etc. And I said, so how are you feeling about that? Because I could tell it didn't seem comfortable. She told me she was excited, but I wasn't seeing that on her. So I said, how do you actually feel about that? And she said, nobody's asked me that. And she said, I'm actually terrified. I'm really terrified I'm going to fail. I think I've bitten off more than I can chew. And I'm really sad to be leaving my team because I've been with them for 15 years and I love them so much. And I'm, really anxious about the fact that I'm taking this new job and it's huge and I don't know if I'm going to be able to cope with it. And so she told me she was excited, but that being able to tell there was a mismatch there between what she was saying and what was reflecting in her face and her body. And that's when real compassion and real empathy can come into it, because just simply saying to somebody, how are you feeling about that? Gave her the opportunity to talk about it. And look, she could have chosen not to. She could have said, oh, no, it's great. It's a fantastic job. And I would have just left it. But it's that ability to sort of recognise what's good, to see the unspoken, I think is a really valuable thing in creating human connection.
I love that, and I love how you talked about it being a mismatch there. So just to clarify for those that are new, I know Ros knows this. Just so I can add a word in there, looking at those micro expressions, etc. It gives us an indication of what we think might be going on in the other person. So being able to get clarity around that through questioning, as opposed to our own emotions, we can be a lot more succinct about what we're going through. But yeah, and this is what I was saying before, and I'm not sure it was in the interview or in our talk before, but anyway, where the work that has now been done helps us to understand that there's not just one facial expression for an emotion, all right? And by having that thinking, people would misread, and this is where a lot of conflict comes in. If I look at you like this, right now, you could think that I'm not happy with something you're saying or whatever, but it could be that my screen's not working and I've needed to get a bit closer. So just like the spoken word, the facial expressions is a perfect opportunity to go, hey, I'm sensing that you might be a little bit frustrated right now. Am I right with that? And if so, what am I doing to cause that? So yeah, so I think it's really, really important. Self-awareness, I agree with you. It's so vitally important, and then being able to have that social awareness as well as to what could be going on with others. Fantastic. All right, so I could talk all day with you, and we're going to keep this to time. So my final question is, where do you see your emotional intelligence practice a year from now? With everything that's going on, everything that you're doing, and we obviously don't, need you to tell us everything, particularly what you're going to do, but where do you see your role as an emotional intelligence practitioner fitting in a year from now?
That's a great question, and my view on it is that the need for, or the recognised need for EI is going to continue to grow, and I'm certainly finding that the clientele in that space is getting, the space is getting bigger. More people want to know about it. More people want to learn about it. More executives are incorporating it into their development. So it's one of those things where if you go back, 10 years ago when I started my business, I probably did 75 to 80% training programs and the rest of it coaching, and that's now switched. So it's around the other way. It's about 75% coaching and about 25% training. So people are much more open and willing now to work on the things that they're not great at. And like we've said, soft skills is the bit that's missing for most people because they've had the technical skills from their 30 years of experience. It's that so-called soft skills piece where they've realised there's a gap. And as particularly navigating COVID, I think has made a big difference there too, because people have realised that when you're not in the office with people and you're not face to face and you can't see them, that connection that you had just by proximity is gone. And they've got to learn how to connect with people and with their teams in different ways and establish those, person connections in a way it's just different. And before it was done just kind of organically, just by proximity. And now it's something that people actually have to work at. So I think there's going to be a big space, particularly with virtual and remote and hybrid team working. There's going to be a big space for development of EI skills within teams, as well as leaders to teams within teams themselves. So I see the space as just continuing to grow, to be honest.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And on one of those points you made there, I'm finding exactly that now, where every program that I do, by the way, I call them an online program because virtual means it's not real. But online, all these programs I'm doing all around the world, it's particularly contextualized towards this remote working. And although the principles stay the same, and I always say this when they ask me, how do you find this? And I said, at the end of the day, the underlying principles of a lack of emotional and social intelligence, those things haven't changed. So what we need to train and develop, nothing's changed there. However, the how we do it needs to change a little bit because we can specifically talk about So how do I lead a team which I don't see in the same room anymore? And what particular challenges and problems like anxiety, etc., are more prevalent now than they used to be with the COVID and unrest around the world that's going on right now. So I totally understand and agree. Well, hey, I love the fact that I get to work alongside people who've been doing this for 10 years or more and who have a lot of experience in what they're doing. I really appreciate you, A, sharing that with us here, but B, being someone who is out there in the trenches as well. Both Ros and I work predominantly in the workplace space, and I know a lot of you that are here don't do that. So I want you to understand that the common denominator here is people, right? So people are emotional beings and social beings. So therefore, no matter what sort of coaching you're doing, there's a room right now, and there always has been, for development in this area. So Ros, thank you so much. I think you're going to hang around the green room. We can have a chat in a moment, but thank you so much for giving us your time. And I look forward to more opportunities to hear about things are going. I'm going to check in with you a year from now and see exactly how many of those things have happened for you. So thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Well, there you go, team. Another amazing practitioner of emotional intelligence. And I'd love you to smash that like and love button right now to show some love to Ros for what she has done. If you're watching this in the replay or even watching this on our website once it goes up there, please, if you have any questions, make sure you get in touch and make sure you ask them in there. And we're going to continue to do these interviews over the coming weeks. So if you're in our community and you are someone that would like to come and share as well, then send me a message and we'll have a chat about that as well. So thank you so much. Get in the group, ask heaps of questions, whatever level you're at, wherever you're starting. And by the way, if you are still considering whether or not you could be an emotional intelligence practitioner, the answer is you can. And my plea is to get involved, and we need more emotional intelligence coaches and trainers out there in the world today. So have an amazing day, whatever you're doing. It's morning for some of you, it's afternoon for others, it might even be evening for some others, I'm not sure. But thank you so much for giving us the privilege to serve you in this group, and we'll see you again soon.